We're starting with perhaps the biggest global story of these days. The latest coming from Jerusalem. The United Nations Security Council is likely to meet on Friday over Donald Trump's Jerusalem decision. The meeting has been requested by half the Council members after the US President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, raising fears of a violent backlash all over West Asia. President Donald Trump said that as a part of this decision, the United States will construct a new embassy complex in Jerusalem. The Vice President of the United States of America, Mike Pence, will travel to West Asia in the coming days to assess the situation.
When I came into office, I promised to look at the world's challenges with open eyes and very fresh thinking. We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past. Old challenges demand new approaches. My announcement today marks the beginning of a new approach to conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. In 1995, Congress adopted the Jerusalem Embassy Act, urging the federal government to relocate the American embassy to Jerusalem and to recognize that that city, and so importantly, is Israel's capital. This act passed Congress by an overwhelming bipartisan majority and was reaffirmed by a unanimous vote of the Senate only 6 months ago. Yet for over 20 years, every previous American president has exercised the law's waiver, refusing to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem or to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. Presidents issued these waivers under the belief that delaying the recognition of Jerusalem would advance the cause of peace. Some say they lacked courage, but they made their best judgments based on facts as they understood them at the time. Nevertheless, the record is in. After more than 2 decades of waivers, we are no closer to a lasting peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. It would be folly to assume that repeating the exact same formula would now produce a different or better result. Therefore, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
And predictably, protesters took to the streets. The US President Donald Trump said that he recognizes Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel. Several hundred protesters demonstrated outside the US consulate in Istanbul to condemn President Trump's decision. Some of the demonstrators burned papers with Israeli flags on them, and others wrote "Free Palestine" on the walls of the consulate. Protests also broke out outside the US Embassy in the Turkish capital of Ankara. Turkey's foreign ministry has also slammed the decision by the United States as irresponsible and called on Washington to reconsider the move.
Müslümanların ilk kıblesi olan Kudüs'ün bugün İsraillerin, Yahudilerin başkenti olarak kabul edilmesinin tepkisi olarak biz burada şu anda bulunuyoruz.
Protesters also took to the streets in the holy city of Bethlehem, condemning the United States President Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital city of Israel. And Palestine and Palestinians have also reacted to US President Donald Trump's decision. And for more on this story, we are joined by our associate editor, Palki Sharma-Upadhyay. Thank you very much, Palki, for joining us on the broadcast. Good evening to you. So this is indeed a historical decision, good or bad, we still need to see. But is this happening right now? I mean, is the embassy moving from day one?
No, it won't happen immediately. The Americans have been given a plot. They were leased a plot of a few decades back by the Israeli government, and they have to pay 1 rupee every year as a nominal fee for that. But of course, they'll need a bigger establishment in Jerusalem. They have a consular presence in that city, but the embassy has always been in Tel Aviv. So it is a long task, as the US president said yesterday, that he's ordering the State Department to begin the process of moving the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. They'll have to identify the site. They'll have to start the construction. In terms of security, they will have to make sure that enough has been done to thwart any potential attack, because this remains a very sensitive zone as it is, and now with the American move more so. So it is going to take a few years, if not more.
Obviously, the Arab world did not welcome this move, and people in Palestine and took to the street. Are we expecting something more? Because tomorrow is Friday.
Tomorrow is Friday, and that is the day to watch very closely. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, for one, has called for the third intifada. That is a call for an uprising, and that cannot be taken lightly. Protests were expected. Travel guidelines and warnings were issued yesterday, not just by the Americans, but the other embassies as well in the region. So yes, there will be protest. In terms of diplomatic protest in the Arab world, I'm not so sure. Yes, when Donald Trump warned the Arab leaders, among others, the European allies as well, that he's going to make that decision, most of them advised him against it. But remember that new alliances have been taking shape. The Arabs are not averse to doing business with Israel. The common enemy now is Iran. And so the protests, while they will be made on the record, may not go beyond the words.